Good morning, guys. This is Michael, teacher turned trucker, and we're going to be working through John chapter 19, verses 23 to 27 this morning. This is very much a heartfelt section. It's as you get into the terminology, you can see the love Jesus had for his disciple John, as well as for his mother. This is the crucifixion of Jesus, in part. So let's go ahead and jump into the text. It says, "Now when the soldiers crucified Jesus, they took his clothes and made 4 shares, one for each soldier, and the tunic remained. Now the tunic was seamless, woven from the top to bottom as a single piece." Let's touch about a couple of things here. First of all, it's evident from the numbers here, 4 shares, that there's 4 soldiers who were responsible for essentially executing Jesus, putting him on the cross and monitoring him. There's also evidence here that they're dividing. So when a soldier would crucify someone, they would be able to take and plunder whatever that the dead person or the condemned had. But what's interesting here is the tunic remained. In the parentheses it says, "Now the tunic was seamless, woven from top to bottom as a single piece." This has been an issue of contention for some people, thinking that 2,000 years ago they didn't have the means of doing this. But it should be noted also that the description here is the same description that's given of the high priestly tunic. The tunic is what the inner garment was. They often wore an outer garment. We'll talk about that in a moment. The inner garment, and Christ wearing a garment that's described the same as a high priest's garment in the Old Testament should not be missed. Obviously, we know that Christ is also known as a great high priest. So I don't think that's a coincidence. So moving on. "So the soldiers said to one another, 'Let's not tear it, but throw dice to see who will get it.' This took place to fulfill the scripture that says, 'They divided my garments among them, and for my clothing they threw dice.' So the soldiers did these things." And what it's talking about there, for my clothing they threw dice, that's the inner garment, the tunic. They divided my garments among them. The garment it's talking about there is the outer garment. This would have been something that was made of multiple pieces and would have been much easier to divide. So, the outer garment, much like we would wear a jacket, it'd be put together with stitches and everything. And then his inner garment, much like maybe a t-shirt or something like that, but one that runs all the way through, but without any seams. So, 25, "Now standing beside Jesus' cross were his mother's sister, Mary the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene." The people mentioned in this verse, there's a lot of contention about who's who, especially when you get into wife of Clopas. One of them I read was this was actually maybe Mary's brother-in-law, one of those relations, something like that, potentially. I don't know. Okay. It wasn't the main focal point for my studying this morning. It is interesting, though, that Mary, his mother, is there. Mary Magdalene is there as well. Mary Magdalene being the one who anointed Jesus' feet prior to his crucifixion. So moving on to 26. "So when Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing there, he said to his mother, 'Woman, look, here is your son.'" First of all, the phrase "disciple whom he loved," this is one that's been used repeatedly throughout the book. Excuse me, guys. Throughout the book, the Gospel of John. When you see this, the disciple whom Jesus loved, John does not refer to himself in the first person as he loved me. Instead, he always refers to himself in the third person, the one whom he loved. Okay, so this is talking about John the Apostle. And it is interesting to note, and I'll go ahead and do so here, that the Apostle John is the only one that lived and died a natural death. All the others are recorded as having been martyred. So also, John is the only one to whom Jesus entrusted his mother. That's what's going on right here. So let's go ahead and read that. So, "Woman, look, here is your son." So first of all, I know even as a youngster when I read this and I got to that word "woman," we have a tendency of interpreting that in the terminology of our day. And when we do so, calling someone or saying something or saying woman to someone is very frequently seen as a negative or derogatory or an aggressive tone. That's not the case here. One of the commentaries, I think, actually said it very well. It's akin to our common day vernacular of saying sir or ma'am. So it's very much a term of respect in the Jewish culture of the day. So when he says woman, he's saying ma'am. And it's interesting, though, he doesn't say mother. In one of the commentaries I read said potentially, and this is conjecture, but I could see some potential for it, that Jesus avoided calling her mother to avoid adding to the hurt and the pain and the sorrow she was experiencing. So he kept it respectful but distant a little bit to avoid that added pain of being reminded that he was her son and he was dying in front of her. So, look, here is your son. He's pointing to the Apostle John. So this was important because as the eldest son, Jesus was responsible for caring for his mother. This is understood because at this point it is believed by, I think, pretty much everyone that Joseph is dead. And as such, in the culture of the day and even to our day, the oldest son is the one who's expected to care for the mother. Okay. What Jesus is doing is he is providing provision or making provision for his mother so that she will be cared for. Moving on, he then said to his disciple, look, here is your mother. From that very time, the disciple took her into his own home. So at this point, it's almost like Jesus is adopting John into the family of Mary so that now John will be the one entrusted with caring for Mary. So some interesting things to take from this is the provision for your parents. And I know this is one that touches home with me, circumstances in my own home, and it's difficult. How do we provide for our parents? How do we care for them? Are we intentional about it? Scripture, it's recorded historically, not in Scripture but elsewhere, that Mary is believed to have lived about 15 years after this, and then she died there in Judea. That's what I came across in one of the commentaries. And again, the Apostle John lived to be over 90 years old, is what's believed by many. Perhaps this was a way of distinguishing him and his blessedness from God for caring for Mary. I don't know, there's a lot of conjecture going on into there. But rather than speculate, I'll just kind of leave it where, because my mind's running through multiple things right now. As children, we need to be mindful of helping and caring for our parents. This is difficult for me personally because I have a mother who's living with dementia, and she's currently being switched over to guardianship with my oldest sister because I'm switching over to be a trucker. I'm not going to be able to be present to take care of her the way I need to. So in the manner of taking care of her, I'm entrusting her with someone who I trust, who is able to take care of her. So if it's not you personally taking care of, then making arrangements so that the parent, your mother, is taken care of. So as I said earlier, this is kind of personal. So that's what we work with today. Tomorrow we'll work with Jesus' death, starting in verse 28. If you have any comments or questions, go ahead and share them in the comments below. If you like the video, see any value, please go ahead and share it and give it a thumbs up. I appreciate you guys, and you have a good day.